PCH and Topanga Beach Drive. Firefighters are trying to put out this home. Absolutely going up in massive flames right now.
That's your entire life. You don't get that back. The memories are gone. I hope they're alive.
It is like driving through hell itself down here. Literally through hell.
Hey, that's not going to do anything. I don't want you to get burned, man.
This is the recipe for disaster here. We are into a moment in history here. You can feel it, right? This has never happened before in some of these areas. Record hot summer, near record dry fall, strongest wind event in at least 14 years and affecting an incredible amount of population.
Just be okay. You're gonna be okay. All right? You're gonna be okay. Oh.
The flame just came into my body, and I just feel myself going to die. So I was holding your boy when you were saying, get out, get out. But thanks to you, bro, behind the camera. Thank you. I can't get out.
And tell you, I've been here 47 years. I grew up on this block. I saw the other altitude unit fires, and it was nothing like this. Nothing like this.
It looked like pandemonium. And trying to get down Lake Street, there was a 4-mile backup. I'm surprised all of us got out of there, to tell the truth.
We did take all of our family pictures and a few valuable paintings out last night, so, you know, all the stuff that's here is replaceable. People are not, so very lucky. So having the family is the most important thing.
The word to describe what we're seeing here tonight is just apocalyptic.
Right behind us in these mountains, that is where the Palisades fire is burning. That is Pacific Palisades. We're talking about 11,000 plus acres that have burned right now.
My mom's up there, and I don't know if she's okay or not.
Oh, man. Well, you just heard it and saw it. Scenes of heartbreaking loss and resilience playing out across L.A. as the city endures the most destructive firestorm in modern history.
Here is what we know right now. 5 active wildfires continue to spread in different parts of L.A. County. The latest flaring up in the Hollywood Hills area, threatening iconic landmarks. At least 5 people are dead, and more than 100,000 are under evacuation orders.
So the Pacific Palisades fire burning over 17,000 acres, and the Eaton fire outside of Pasadena is over 10,000 acres. It is burned. Both are at 0% containment, just like yesterday. And firefighters are reportedly being forced to choose which homes to save.
They call that triaging. And a lot of people have lost their houses, including celebrities like Paris Hilton, who says she is heartbroken beyond words after watching her Malibu home go up in flames on live TV. Yesterday, we brought you 3 hours of live coverage as a long row of oceanfront properties along the Pacific Coast Highway burned to the ground in Malibu.
Let's go down to William Lajeunesse for the latest on the ground in the Pacific's Palisades, California. Hey, William.
Hey, good morning. You know, last night we had 7 fires burning in L.A. You mentioned some new ones in Hollywood, Brentwood, 2 in Studio City. But with the winds down and the helicopters up and almost double the number of firefighters, it's making a difference. Today we expect winds closer to 25, not 75. But we are not out of the woods yet, and I am in the Pacific Palisades. This, of course, is the worst hit. A lot of celebrities here, you know, Spielberg, Hanks, Reese Witherspoon, Bradley Cooper. And this is the street you would see them. This is the walking street, Antioch. All up and down here in daylight you're going to be able to see it's all destroyed. All of these, about 1,000 homes and businesses in the Palisades, all destroyed. Now, here's one of the issues that were of main concern here. Of course, it is water. You've heard a little bit about it, right? So lack of it, because firefighters ran out of water. Now, DWP has 3 reservoirs or tanks, about 1 million gallons each. And over the fire, in the first 24 hours, first 12 hours actually, they ran out of water.
Because we were pushing so much water in our trunk line and so much water was being used before it can get to the tanks, we were not able to fill the tanks fast enough. So the consumption of water was faster than we can provide water.
Water remains available in the Palisades through hydrants, but also through water tankers that have been deployed. Claims that the tanks weren't full are false.
Well, you could hear there that DWP said actually they were correcting Mayor Bass. Now, hours ago, DWP also said, however, don't use your tap water. It has to be boiled, right? That's going to be difficult because people here, they don't have electricity. They've cut off the gas, so your generator is not going to work. Also, they don't have cell service or internet, although today Elon Musk promised to bring Starlink to the affected areas. That is going to help a great deal. Those other major fires you guys mentioned, the one near Pasadena, Eaton fire, 11,000 acres, 5 fatals, and they brought in some canines to make sure that there are not more. And finally, the Hearst fire, that's now 13% contained, we are told. Now, all 3 are under investigation. 130,000 people do remain under evacuation orders. As for this fire, we're looking at potentially over $50 billion, and that would rank as the most expensive fire in U.S. history. Back to you.
William, quick question. They keep saying 0% contained, but you're standing in a place, you were there yesterday, and that's out. So can you say that that area is contained?
No. So containment is a really misleading figure, and people think, well, because if it is 0% contained, so here's the deal. Containment means there's a line around the fire at least 6 feet wide. So until you get firefighters, either put a bulldozer or you hand crews to put the line around the fire, it's not contained. So technically a fire can be out and 0% contained, as weird as that may sound. But it's a terminology that they've used for years, and it doesn't make any sense to the public. The one thing I wanted to add, you guys, because you like to chew on this kind of stuff, and I like it too, okay? You think we have an affordability problem in Los Angeles right now? Wait till you have 4,000 people looking for rentals or new homes. Right. They're going to go through a permit process of at least 5 years. The material costs, the labor costs, trying to get a contractor, that's the next nightmare, as well as the insurance problem, which I know you've already talked about.
Yeah. Do you know anything, William, about the 5 people who died?
Personally, I do not. Sorry. I'll check into that, though.
William, I'm curious, what has been the response from the people on the ground? I mean, I've been seeing on social media the frustration of the citizens rightfully with their leaders. I'm just curious, on the ground, what's the mood from the residents?
Well, you know, okay, whenever you hear about a Santa Ana win, people get really scared, right? And that's across the board. I mean, in Malibu, in the Palisades, any of these areas around the canyons, the interface, that's going to be a problem. So it makes them really, really nervous. And then when you had this kind of situation, I don't want to say, it was almost unprecedented, right? 3 major fires, almost simultaneous. And again, well, it actually did happen in 2018, and that's when we the Woolsey fire, and we lost 1,000 structures there. So people are frustrated. There's no question about that in terms of the response not being what it could be. But I also think they're kind of inured to the idea that, it's always getting worse. We normally have 1 red flag warning every 3 to 5 years. We've had 3 red flag warnings in the last 3 months. So it's a difficult situation.
And it's the wind, and it's because it's so dry. You haven't had any rain out there. The National Guard has been deployed. That is good news. That's going to be helpful because the fire department has been triaging. Yesterday in particular, they had to drive by houses on fire to go save somebody else's. But William, I know that 3 people were arrested who were looting in some of the evacuation zones, and now in Santa Monica out there right now, there is a curfew from sundown to sunup in the evacuation areas, because that's the worry. It's not the house is on fire. It's, okay, you got to leave your house. Suddenly there's a guy who goes in your back door and steals your stuff.
Yeah, it's really hard to enforce the curfew. I mean, we in the media are able to get through. Nobody else can, but there's a lot of people who haven't left. and some are on bicycles and motorcycles and things like that. They get through. And we saw some tonight beginning to go through some of the stuff. They were more teenagers, but they had motorbikes. And the cops, they're stretched thin, right? In terms of the triage, Steve, there's just a little bit on that. When firefighters, I've been through some fires before, and if a house doesn't look like it's savable, I'm not going. I mean, in the Laguna fire, I saw a house and I go, don't even bother. Don't waste your time on that house because they didn't take the time to treat it properly. I might be able to save this guy. I can't save that one. So it can be tricky.
Hey, William, we're going to get into this, but just anecdotally, you live around there. I was talking to a lot of people because I used to live around there. And they were saying that when the fire trucks pulled up to the house and it was hours old, there was no water in the hydrant. So there's something wrong with it was full and we just used it all because of the unprecedented fire. You shouldn't be running out of water in the first hours of a fire in the #2 market in the country in one of the richest per capita areas in the world.
Yeah, well, in terms of how fast they were able, you're right, because the first one I think went at 3, the second one at 8, and the next one at 3 a.m. And anyways, I might have those numbers slightly wrong, but the point is you're right. When that first tank went down, you got a problem in terms of whether the investigation will be done, right? Why could not they pump the water? The question of availability, there was water available, they just couldn't get it in the tank fast enough. Right. Well, the question is why.
And because
hopefully the investigations will tell us.
What else are you working on except for wildfires?
Well, Karen Bass was saying that that's not true. The tanks were full, but then she was corrected, saying, no, we ran out. Williams acknowledging that as well. But then she was asked by Sky News, she said, do you owe your citizens an apology?
Yeah, no response.
She said nothing, no response.
And William, this is germane because it's those 3 1 million gallon tanks that provide the gravity that push the water into the hydrants. And when they were empty, then they couldn't get the water to the hydrants. There was still water in L.A., but just not through the hydrants.
All right. Yeah.
Right. Right, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
thank
William.
you so much, William. We'll check back in with you a lot this morning. They're doing an excellent job.
Right. Incredible job. Senior meteorologist Janice Dean is tracking the wind and air quality problems. Janice.
Yeah, air quality is definitely going to be an issue. Some of the worst air quality that they are experiencing right now in Southern California. Here are the wind gusts. So 30 miles per hour in Saddle Peak. The good news is mainly calm, but we still have the potential for 30, 50 mile per hour gusts throughout the day today. And we've upped those acreage totals to over 17,000. Remember, yesterday it was not even 3,000, so double, triple that. And then we also have 5 fires that are burning, a lot of them not contained. That was an excellent description of containment from William earlier on today. But look at the Eaton fire. Not even there yesterday, and now 10,000 acres burning without a lot of containment. Are we going to get firefighters out there today? Yes, and we're going to get planes and helicopters in the air. We still have wind alerts, so wind gusts in excess, 50, 60 miles per hour, but sporadic and not as long-lasting as we saw yesterday. There is the forecast as we go through time, so we'll have breaks where we don't have a lot of winds at all, but then Friday, definitely better conditions. However, no rain in the forecast at all. And the dry conditions continue. The winds will be fine, but we're still going to be dealing with the potential for an outlook of fire danger, not only today, but Friday, certainly an elevated fire danger. And, looking ahead to the forecast, no rain. There's just no rain. And there hasn't been a lot of rain in this area, and that's what they really need. Over to you.
In fact, Janice, I read that this fire season, they've only gotten 0.16 inches.
Yeah.
Normally it would be 4 or 5 inches. But less than a tenth of an inch, or just a little less than a 20th of an inch.
And before we go, the smoke. The smoke is going to be a huge deal. Not just lumber. That's like all sorts of particulates in the air that's going to cause respiratory issues, not only for residents, but firefighters that are working tirelessly, 24, 48-hour shifts without a break.
Nonstop. Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Janice.
And Janice, last year, record rainfall.
Yes,
If they
and
had
so
found
you
a
have
way to
all that
hold that
vegetation.
water.
That's all dried out. So that's another point. Yes, we have had some rain in the past couple of years, new vegetation, then drying out, and that's fuel for all this fire. It's a perfect disaster.
Yeah, it is.
It's awful.
All right. Thank you, Janice. I was watching some interviews with some high school students out there, and they said all of our hangouts are gone. We were watching videos of our football field on Instagram up in flames, and that brings us to this. This is Palisades High School. Look at it before on the left-hand side of your screen. Look at it now on the right. It's gone.
It's incredible.
Yeah. It's not the only one.
This
Take a
is
look
the
at
bank
this.
as well, the Palisades Bank. The before and after is just stunning.
Just can we stop here a second? I can't believe that bank couldn't be saved. I watched that bank begin to burn, and they go, no, we're going to give up on it. Then it was isolated, but...
And you know what? We were discussing this in the green room. On the far right part of the screen, you can see that the bank is on fire, and right next to it is an ATM. You got to wonder if anybody went to the ATM from the bank and took out the hundreds of thousands of dollars or anything like that. Also, how many people's... We know that a lot of people's homes were destroyed, but how many people had stuff in the safety deposit boxes from generations of their family all gone?
And
at all those
what's
banks.
interesting, look at this picture. There are people sitting on the bench before, when it was normal. And then look on the right, it's a ghost town.
I believe that's the same building. There used to be a gym overlooking the ocean. I used to work out there, And it's amazing. But to me, there was just no fire truck. I watched that thing in real time. I'm thinking to myself, that could be saved. They didn't even try. I'm not saying firefighters didn't try. Maybe they didn't have the resources, or there was no one in command to say, we could save that because of the money. Also, Steve, isn't there fireproofing? And we're going to find out if the fireproofing on the safety deposit box will be effective.
Well, here's the thing, Brian. In a lot of those places, they've got sprinklers. That's usually the code. You got to have a sprinkler in there. But for the most part, it was so overwhelmed. And if they ran out of water, if the water was cut,
well, also a lot. My high school years, I was a fire explorer. Most of the time, when these big fires like they're trying to stop the spread. Right. So if a house or a business is somewhere in the middle, then they kind of have to let it go to prevent it from. It's an impossible situation that they're dealing with, right?
Especially when you cut money to the budget.
Resources limited, but the winds were so strong yesterday, the firefighters were having a hard time. And in some instances, you were watching as trucks were choosing. They were passing one home to go and save another. And firefighters were heard on the emergency radios requesting additional support and crews.
Right.
They're limited.
And that's what William was talking about. When a fire truck pulls up, if they see that house and they go, it's too far gone, maybe we can save that one over there. And also, you got to figure they're looking at, okay, that's a wooden house. It's on fire. The house right over there is a brick house or a CBS house. More likely we can save that. So that explains why they're kind of shopping around trying to figure out.
A lot of real-time calculations going on for those firemen. Meanwhile, President-elect Trump calling out California's Governor Gavin Newsom over the state's response to the fires and its long-term planning.
Nate Foy is in West Palm Beach. Good morning to you, Nate.
Hey, Ainsley. Hey, guys. Good morning. President-elect Donald Trump blames California Governor Gavin Newsom for poor water management decisions, and he says that has led to a lack of an ability to fight these devastating fires. He blames Newsom for, in his words, failing to sign a water restoration declaration that would have put California in a better position than it's in right now.
I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish. And for the sake of a smelt, they had no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration.
So Trump's referring to a 2020 memorandum he signed meant to bring more water to Los Angeles and other parts of the state, but California said it wasn't scientifically justified and sued to block it for concerns about endangered species. According to Newsom's office, quote, there's no such document as the Water Restoration Declaration. That is pure fiction. But Trump kept applying pressure, calling on Newsom to resign, writing on Truth Social, quote, one of the best and most beautiful parts of the United States of America is burning down to the ground. It's ashes, and Gavin Newsom should resign. This is all his fault. Here's Newsom last night.
One can't even respond to it. I mean, it's, people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives. Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it.
What is the situation with the water? Obviously, in the Palisades, it ran out last night in the hydrants.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires, whether it be pipe, electricity, or whether it just be the complete overwhelm of the system.
President-elect Trump will head back to Palm Beach tonight after attending former President Jimmy Carter's funeral in Washington, D.C. He will meet with Republican governors at Mar-a-Lago tonight after meeting with Senate Republicans yesterday in a meeting that he said went well. We'll send it back to you.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Thanks, Nate. Just to get to the bottom, I want to get to the bottom of the water project that was reversed in 2019 by Governor Newsom, where the president Trump won, Trump's first term, had a different idea of what could be happening on the West Coast for them to get water, and they want to renew their project, which is a 113-year-old aqueduct to refill the area, whatever it is. When they did their dry runs. That was a total non-answer from Governor Newsom. Governor DeSantis would have an answer that. Even if the answer's not good, he just totally obscured it as if he's in some 12th grade debate.
Up to the locals.
Well, people are burning in your state, and you. If it's not up to the locals, you got Karen Bass, who wasn't even there. She was given notice 48 hours before this was going to happen. She could have delayed the trip
to Ghana.
And there's no interest for L.A. going to that inauguration.
She cut the budget of the fire department.
Well, to
$17 million.
To your point, Lawrence, she declared a state of emergency on Tuesday when she was going to Africa.
Exactly.
If your town is going to have a state of emergency, don't go. Brian, going back to the water for a minute, because it's all about the water. The amount of water pumped from the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta was limited under federal and state regulations to protect a fish called the smelt, which has been declared functionally extinct, according to the New York Post. And so here's the thing. Here's what they should have done. Because there were limitations. Governor Newsom should have, in anticipation of, everybody knew there were going to be 100-mile-an-hour winds. He should have signed a declaration to simply pump more water into the LA area. He could have done that. I mean, there are rules in the books. It has to do with environment and stuff like that. But he could have taken the extraordinary measure to say, okay, he didn't. Right now we're going to pump everything we got into LA. And they did not.
Well, they have protected that little tiny minnow, the Delta smelt, for decades. We used to do stories on this when I was working on Sean Hannity's show, when he had that Back Sunday show. Yeah. So we went out there, took the whole show out there to do this. The food banks had people wrapped around them because they couldn't grow their crops. The majority of all the almonds that we eat are grown there, but they will shut down the water supply, or they'll limit the water supply just to save this little tiny minnow. Meanwhile, people are going without food, and now people are dying and their houses are being burned.
We're going to play a little bit later. We went a little over of Donald Trump talking about this as late as last summer about California. And who doesn't love California? It's fantastic. He's got a golf club out there. He knows it. In fact, you want to hear it. Here's Donald Trump
warning
concerned about this for years. Watch.
We've got to take care of the floors. You know, the floors of the forests, very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spent a lot of time on raking and cleaning.
The head of Austria tells me, you know, we have trees that are much more flammable than what you have in California. We never have forest fires because they maintain their forests. And you have all that water that could be used to, as water, what they call water flow, where the where the land would be damp. And you'd stop many of these horrible fires. They had a couple of horrible forest fires in California. And I said, you know, you got a lot of trees standing. Yes, they were healthy trees, sir. I said, with this intense heat, you could see they were charred a little bit on the bottom, but they were going to be all right. But when they fall, they're like, you know, it's like lighting a match.
It's incredible. And when you look at the left right now, and I talked to the president late last night around 10:45, one of his frustrations is they're all pointing to his Truth Social post going after Newsom. But his frustration is, look, there are several issues that I continue to bring up before it hits the fan. And no one listens. They say it's bombast. And then when there's a tragedy and I say, I said this before, then they criticize me again. So it's not just this issue, and I don't want to go into it, but it's the same thing when I said criminals were coming across the border and we need to lock it down. Oh, it's bombast. You're demonizing people. He says the same thing that's happening in California.
And you're absolutely right. Donald Trump called him on this. But the problem is California, of all the 50 states, has the most biggest number of environmental restrictions on anything. But you would think that going forward, given what has happened, and so many of, I bet a lot of those environmentalists lost their houses. Maybe they will change the rules about water flow going forward.
I can't think of anything more damaging to the environment than just letting it burn. So,
all right, our coverage will continue of the devastating wildfires in Southern California.
Good news is I'm a great-grandfather as of today. Granddaughter. I'm a baby girl, a baby boy. So I remember this day for a while.
That statement would not be in any leadership books. No one cares about your personal thing as president. They care about the thousands of people that had everything lost and the 5 that are dead. President Biden marking the birth of his first great-grandchild as he takes no questions, which is an insult to the people, not to the press, to the people, while joining Governor Newsom at a news conference yesterday as fire rages across Los Angeles. Our next guest grew up in Los Angeles and watched in horror yesterday as his videos show the street he grew up on burned to the ground and his 6 previous houses all destroyed. Actor Dean Cain joins us from Nevada. Dean, your reaction to these unfolding events, I imagine you got a lot of them.
Yeah, you know, it's stunning to see the devastation and what took place. But I call this a perfect storm, Brian. It's a perfect storm of mismanagement and failure of leadership, because the Santa Ana winds aren't new. Fires in this part of California is not new. We grew up fighting them and knowing what was going on. What is new is these decades of just absolute terrible leadership, failure to prepare, insane regulations, bureaucracy. It's crazy, and it all came to fruition today. Things I've been screaming about for years, and it would finally actually, the taxes, the regulations, these dumb policies finally forced me to move to Nevada. I have so many friends and family that are still there. Fortunately, everybody's okay. So many of my friends have lost their houses, lost everything. It's absolutely heartbreaking.
65%, the fire budget is 65% of the homeless budget, which is $1.3 billion. And they cut by $17 million the fire budget again, even though they were recommended not to. Karen Bass wanted a bigger cut, and the city legislature said, no, it can't be that big. She wanted a $23 million cut. And here is this poor excuse for a mayor who chose Ghana despite the threat of these fires, a trip there. Once she lands, instead of embracing it, trying to tackle it, listen to a Sky News reporter try to get answers from the mayor of Los Angeles.
You owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning. Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Dean.
It's absolutely stunning. That is an elected official. The mayor of Los Angeles cannot answer a direct question in the middle of an absolute emergency. It's insane to me. That's the kind of failure of leadership that I'm talking about. It's crazy. And, anybody who could leave L.A., like myself, kind of has. I see so many people are like, I had to get out of there. I had to get out of there. And this is why. This kind of failure of leadership leads to death and destruction, and things just falling apart. And that's what took place here. I got to say, the firefighters and the first responders, unbelievable, heroic, incredible, and the people are such great people, and they're used to fighting these things, but you can't do it when all your tools are taken from you, and that's what's happened here. It's just absolute mismanagement. I am so embarrassed to see Karen Bass do that to a reporter. Just absolutely go quiet like she's in second grade. She should resign immediately.